What's up, Elevation Youth? Today we're taking a behind-the-scenes look at the YTH 24 Vision video. We're going to take a look at the mix and the sound design. Let's get into it. So when it comes to a video like this, it was directed by Andrew Livingston. He went out and shot it. He did the edit, put the whole thing together. And then from there, he sends me what we call an OMF. That's basically a way for me to get the audio files in the exact same format that he has them. And then we also get a reference video showing me kind of a rough draft of what it's going to look like. And the last thing would be just some notes on what he's kind of wanting to highlight and what he expects to see. Let's take a look at Pro Tools. It is a beast of a software. We have this whole thing here. You can see this is the timeline where everything is. And what's cool is once I drop in that OMF, it also gives me this look of the frame, everything that's happening on the video. That way I can line it up perfectly with what's happening. So if you look at the start here, we have, again, the preview showing what the video is. And then we start with this voiceover. There's some processing already baked into his VO, but let me just show you the stuff I added. First thing is a smart gate. As you can see, what this does is it will open
if they ask me
and close when he's speaking. That way, whenever he's not speaking, it goes to complete silence. For VOs like this, I want to make sure I can control the room sound. Next thing would be Soothe. This plugin is incredible. This is just, I'm using the vocal mids control preset, and it's just helping control the mids of his voice, making sure it doesn't get too boxy. Then from there, do some de-essing. And then I thought his S was still a little harsh after that, so I'm doing another de-esser with Soothe 2 again, just to make sure everything sits right where it's supposed to be. Under this VO bus, I have Black Box. I love this plugin. This is adding some saturation to his vocal, really accentuating those low notes, making sure he sounds nice and boomy. I want this VO to sound as big as possible.
Maybe the better question is, who is God to you?
The next thing, we have this track. Starts pretty mellow, pretty chill. And then obviously builds up toward the end. So when it comes to this track and editing this thing, you don't really have to do much. Obviously, it's a professionally recorded, produced piece of music, so you're not really trying to make it sound better, but you are trying to make it fit into the vocal. So let's hear those two together.
Is God to you?
Starting off with this API channel strip.
Surely our answers will be similar.
I like to cut a little bit in the low mid. That's typically where the meat of his vocal is going to sit. So I like to cut it here. I like to boost the lows, boost the highs, just to make sure the track kind of gives a hug around the vocal, making sure it really punches through. And then Black Box again on this one. I use this plugin a ton apparently. This again, just to make it sound nice and beefy. I'm saturating specifically the low end. Whenever we're playing this type of video in an auditorium, we have massive subs. So I really like to see what I can do with the subs. I want to make that I want it to fill the room as much as possible. I want it to feel huge. And then I'm also sending this track to its own bus. Let's go to that.
Is God to you?
Right here with the track bus. Here I'm doing a couple special processing things that I think kind of help it sit better in the mix. The first of which, I have this Fairchild compressor.
Is God to you?
So with this one, I'm actually using it in this lat vert mode, which is, I guess, technically their version of a mid side. So I'm cutting a little bit of mid and then boosting the sides. So if you're not into audio, you probably have no idea what that means. Basically, I'm just doing more things to carve out space for the vocal so that the music can be louder.
Is God to you?
So again, just a little bit of compression here.
We can all answer that.
Maybe 1 to 2 dB.
Surely our answers will be
nothing on
similar.
the sides, but I'm boosting the output. I'm doing the same thing by using the Soothe plugin. So whenever the special effects are happening, it's actually going to duck the track just a little bit so that the effects stand out more. And then finally closing it off with this Submarine plugin from Waves. This is just for fun. Again, I was saying we have these massive subs in the room. You can add a lower octave and even a second octave below that. Really push the subs in the room just to make it sound as beefy and as boomy as possible. So that is my track chain.
He is and he will be. Whatever it is you need, he is and he will be.
Now for the fun part, the sound design, the sound effects, all the fun stuff. So these are things I actually have to build from scratch. Again, I was not able to go on this trip. So when he's walking through the snow, I want people to be able to hear what's happening, but we don't necessarily have that source sound to work off of. So I'm having to build it in, having to fake it. Hollywood is fake, nothing is real, just so you know. All right, so let's go to the top. What I'm going to do this time through is I'm going to mute the track. That way the sound design can shine even more. So let's go step by step.
If they ask me,
let's start it off with a little bit of a
what
riser.
is his name? What shall I tell them?
This whole part, I have this
Maybe the better question
cold
is,
wind sound effect.
who is God to you?
So I'm going to put this in solo. It's just so you can hear the atmosphere, so you can feel like you're there. And then the next thing, I want to accentuate those steps. You can see him walking up to this mountain.
Question is, who?
Try and match those as close as possible. And then for this next section, as he falls to his knee, typically that would sound the same as it does stepping in snow. But for a video like this, you really want to take an artistic approach and accentuate that as much as possible. So I added kind of a bass boom right there. Let's take a look at that. For this section, the whole point is to show the light coming through the tree. So with this, I wanted it to feel like it was coming up upon the horizon. Now, there's not really a sound for that. You don't hear the sound coming up, but you can do these things what are called risers, and it's just kind of a whooshing sound effect. So you add enough of these in, and it starts to feel like that sun is coming to you. So let's take a look at that section. And then it cuts to this shot. So I want to make sure for this, everything drops out, but that's no sound. And again, you're not trying to make every sound happen. You're just highlighting the main stuff. My rule of thumb is if you can see it happen, you want to be able to hear it happen. Oh, I love this part. For this, we shot this in a studio, so there's no sound effect happening at all, but we wanted it to feel kind of eerie, kind of euphoric in a way. When it comes to this like light thing that we're filming, you can see what's happening here. I wanted to do some honestly, just some weird, heavenly sound. Each time you see that light happen, I'm adding a trumpet sound effect to get that, that heavenly, I'm in the clouds type feel. All these fighting sound effects. For this specific one is just clothes, like rustling clothes. Super simple, but goes a long way once you add that extra reverb. Again, I'm using Valhalla on this. Just a hall setting, just so it has a little bit of depth. And then some Pro Q to boost these lows. Probably could boost it even more, just so it feels better in the room. Literally called truck horn. Love that. Some air sounds to help close that scene out. And for this, I wanted to try and match that pulsating sound effect. So I found this thing. I'm not even sure what it is. It's called Machine Throb Fast Cycles. Who knows? I just kind of go searching and see what comes up, and that's what I found. Back into the cold. You really want to utilize your contrast between these scene changes. Now we're in a building section of the video. Running. Lots of risers into the fire. Get all those great fire crackles coming through. Now we're into the portion of the video where we have these different names of God coming up. And for each of those, I have a different whoosh happening just to, again, accentuate the text coming up on the screen. So let's hear what that sounds like. And the whole thing falls out again, back to the snow. So really, you want to make sure the energy of the video is kind of matching. So it's very light here in the beginning with just the light snow and wind effects. And then once it gets into the names and gets into the fire and the buildup, that's when I'm throwing everything. I have 6 channels of effects through here. And honestly, you could probably do a lot more. It's one of those things, I think I worked on this at 4 a.m. Thanks for that, Andrew. I think I worked on this throughout the night, so it's a little bit rushed in the process, but I think it turned out really well. So yeah, that is basically everything that goes into a sound design for a piece like this. So without further ado, let's take it from the top.
If they ask me, What is his name? What shall I tell them? Who is God? Maybe the better question is, who is God to you? We can all answer that. Surely our answers will be similar. We know him by many names. But are we familiar with his power, exemplified through what we call him? Every day, we rely on him. Whether you believe that or not, every day in a different way than before. However, there come times in our lives where we face what seems impossible. And our humanity is more apparent than ever. We're told God can make a way even then. But do we truly believe that? Is God who he says he is? Do we believe he is capable of that which his names tell us? Noah trusted God to keep his promise of safety, yet didn't know him by name. Jacob stood toe-to-toe with God, was spared and blessed, yet didn't know him by name. Moses was commissioned to free a nation. Moses had to ask, "What shall I tell them?" He is and he will be. Whatever it is you need, he is and he will be. Access to a God who is your every need met. I have that. You have that. Do you believe it? The all-encompassing God who knows you to your core. For when you lack the strength to fight, to heal what transcends the physical, for peace that doesn't make sense, which never runs out, to hold us together, our Savior and deliverance, the one who was, the one who is, the one who will be, unequaled outside of time, all-powerful and immensely loving. Who is God? He wants to show you